Listen to me if you want to live. Quit being offended and listen. Travis Wingate, so remember when Trump came to Utah and met with Irene and Nelson as they talked about Welfare Square? Trump gave them praise of the world for Welfare Square. The church has gotten lots of praise from the world for Welfare Square over the decades since they organized it during the Great Depression for the purpose of helping the saints through the Great Depression. And then now it's become just a little token thing. Look what we did once upon a time. Book of Mormon talks about priestcraft. It's in 2 Nephi. Hold on just a second. Don't have the, whoops, not priesthood, priestcraft. 2 Nephi 26:29. He commandeth that there shall be no priestcrafts. For behold, priestcrafts are that men preach and set themselves up for a light unto the world, that they may get gain and praise of the world. Welfare Square has become just that. They are not seeking the welfare of Zion. They call it Welfare Square, but it's temporary. People are expected to be self-reliant and not need welfare. The church does not follow the principle of law of consecration. That's now an oath of loyalty rather than the economic system that we're supposed to practice. I, among many other Mormons, as we grew up, asked that question. You know, law of consecration, why aren't we practicing it now? And then you'd hear rumors about certain Mormons who were rich, who were able to get the prophets to allow them the law of consecration. You can't mix. It just doesn't work that way. You got to do one or the other. And he goes on in 30. Behold, the Lord hath forbidden this thing. Priestcrafts. Duh. Wherefore the Lord God hath given a commandment, that all men should have charity. And charity technically is gift giving. That's the Greek definition of karitos. But he also merges it with the corrected Greek word for agape, which means love. So he says, which charity is love? So charity in and of itself as gift giving is a form of love if it's done with the intent not to receive anything such as gain or praise for giving. But charity as it is love does not necessarily have to be charity. There are other, love is the umbrella, charity is one of the rungs in the umbrella. But anyway, and except they should have charity, they were nothing. Wherefore, if they should have charity, they would not suffer the laborer in Zion to perish. I have witnessed people perish because bishops said, sorry, you're not a member, or sorry, you're not paying a full tithe, or sorry, time is up. This was supposed to be temporary. You're milking the system. Go get yourself a job. And there are those who are neglected because they can't work. And the bishop insists you must work. They've never read the handbook. Apparently, all of a sudden, they're starting to read the handbook now, that it's been made public, so that the members can actually hold the bishops and stake presidents in check for what they're not doing all this time. Those who are disabled, classified by the state. are supposed to be given, not temporarily, given freely, openly. And it's just not being done. Not in my ward. There are people here in our ward who need constant charity from the bishop's storehouses, and they're not getting it because Bishop Cummins is under the old system. He's now changed it, which is correctly so, because I was taught when I first became an elder. The Elders Quorum president is supposed to field all members and funnel it to the bishop. The Elders Quorum president is the bishop of the ward, in the sense that all members need to call and contact the Elders Quorum president. Women, the Relief Society president, families and men, the Elders Quorum president. And then the Elders Quorum president, along with the Relief Society president, have their committee meeting with the bishop, where they then bring up issues that need to be addressed to the bishop. And so, yes, the Elders Quorum president should be going around saying, hey, do you need a food order? Let's fill it out. And then the bishop signs it. I mean, the handbook is clear on that. Anybody disabled automatically gets. They don't have to work for it. It's not temporary. It's permanent. They get taken care of for the rest of their life by the church. And thus the elderly qualify as disabled as well. And to say that, well, you go to your family first. No, read the handbook. Children have claim on their family until they're an adult. Then they have claim upon the church. Adults have claim upon the church first. You don't go to your family and say, help bail me out. It's only for children. And so everybody in the church has been led astray by our bishops and stake presidents, which probably came from the top. But it's in the manuals, clarifying the scripture in Doctrine and Covenants, which is clear enough on my end as I read it. And then verse 31. But the laborer in Zion, here's the law of consecration for you, shall labor for Zion. That's the economic system. For if they labor for money, they shall perish. The law of consecration is not a monetary system. It's not a barter and trade, because that turns objects into money possessions, monetary things. No monetary system. And nobody knows how that's supposed to work, because we're so brainwashed by thinking we have to have money. How do you think all the possessions, the goods, come about? Does money make it? Do you get a $100 bill and you can say abracadabra and all of a sudden it becomes food? No. Food comes from seed, which gets planted in the ground and it's watered and given sunlight, and then it grows, produces the fruit of whatever seed it was. We don't need money in that equation to produce food. We don't need money to make clothes. We don't need money to build buildings. It's the monetary system that was invented most likely by King Sargon I of Old Assyria. It was in the form of, give me what you have. We need it for the capital. So I don't know if it was really a monetary system as much as it was theft, which they then later called tribute, which the Bible mistakenly calls tithing. Abraham did not pay tithes to Melchizedek, Remember, he conquered the king, saving Lot. And so what he was doing was giving tribute to Melchizedek, who then wanted to reward him. And Abraham didn't want to be rewarded. He got his brother freed. That's all he was interested in. But the prophets have failed us. They're not preparing us physically. They knew. That's why they did the welfare square with the Great Depression. They knew they needed something to help Mormons. They didn't tell Mormons, well, you guys were wicked, so you have to suffer. If you'd been prepared, if you'd had a year's supply of food, you wouldn't go through this economic disaster. No, the church was not like that back then. The church stepped up, built welfare square. And then they've expanded it worldwide to have cow fields, cow herds, whatever you call it, in Australia and Florida, and orange orchards in Florida that were wiped out. And we get the cheese from them, from the cows, and they don't want to put salt in it. But they have the wealth, trillions of dollars. If you remember, back in December, the whistleblower for Enzyme Peak Associates exposed that the church had just $100 billion saved through the tithing that we've given them. $100 billion from just tithing. They have other investments, other sources of income and revenue. And so yes, you add it all together, all you need is 10 to have a trillion. They've got far more than just 10 sources of income. And so yeah, they're trillionaires. So if you thought that the City Creek Mall was a scandal costing billions, that was petty cash to them. That's their trick. And then you have Oakes, who was interviewed by the Deseret News, and he says, oh yeah, we're so awesome, we're giving an average of $40 million a year in welfare. Really? $40 million? That's petty cash for the City Creek Mall. But yeah, then they then got exposed, and then they wanted to say how great they were in giving to charity. So then they announced in that one conference not too long ago, I think it was October 19, where Nelson says, "Oh, $2 billion in charity worldwide." And how long? How is it? A decade that it's been going on? And I remember the news in the beginning. You had received $2 billion total in donations for that project, of which you then used. So after these 10 years, you've gotten nothing more since? Is that what you're telling us? And of course, they would have taken out some of those donations to invest, which are another $100 billion. When you see the symbol of the church as the keystone of the arch of the door of the Salt Lake Temple, everything is explained. Now you understand why during this coronavirus they are not prepared. They are saying that we are wicked for not having been prepared, as we aren't rich enough to be prepared like they are for themselves. They have trillions of dollars, and they didn't invest in storehouses, not just throughout Utah, to handle a national state crisis or city crisis, but a world crisis. They have the money that they could have been using to invest. They had the money to have them all stocked to feed the world. And when the rain came pouring down, the church closed the storehouses. There were some people that were still getting stuff. You know, they had stuff on the shelves that would perish. They didn't get rid of it. But they kept it all secret. It was just the members who were already on it, and a few others who were hit hard because the business closed or whatever. But again, church demands that you have to work. You can't just freeload and sit on your couch watching Disney Plus. Gotta work, work, work. Can't be bums. It's a virus, guys. It's not our fault. It's our leaders' fault. The church and the government of state and national and world who allowed it to escalate. They were told how to handle this before it became a pandemic. And nobody listened to the medical doctors. The church was unprepared, and they demand that we had been prepared. So, I hope with your stimulus that you got first aid emergency kits. That you have at least a backpack from what we were given, because we're not getting anything else. The government's on recess for the rest of August. They aren't going to give us a single penny. They give it to the rich. They give it to the corporations like the church. But we don't get it. They're exterminating us. So here's what I would recommend. That if you don't have it and you have some means to get some stuff now, make sure you get backpacks for each individual person in your household. Make sure that you have one for food for each individual person, one for clothing, one for hygiene, sanitation for each person, and then one main one for the whole group that is first aid. Have a digital thumb drive to store scanned documents such as birth certificates, marriage certificates, those kinds of things. Photos, you know, we've got stuff for MP3 players, if you still have those, or did you get suckered into the cloud and internet usage? Because the internet's going to go down one day, and you're not going to be able to access any of your stuff if you don't have a hard copy on something like a thumb drive or a MP3 player or the Apple equivalent, iPod or iPad or whatever. You know, I don't know if you knew that you could digitize movies from DVDs. If I survive, if we survive, I have means of converting them to digital. I probably already have them on digital for you. But if you want to bring your favorite movies, I can make sure that we have them. But yeah, I don't want you guys to suffer and die. And that's the sad thing, is that you guys want me to suffer and die. So at least have that. Make sure your car is filled at the end of the day. I know you have to go regularly daily to the gas station because of that, but you need to be prepared. I don't know the day that they will attack or when destruction will occur, whether it's natural, whether it's man-made. We saw in Portland what he's planning on doing, and he's expanded it to other cities. And even Utah, Utah was obedient to Trump and did it on their own. As ABC 4 News Utah caught the police in the background knocking an old man to the ground. Then the old man, having been born and raised in Utah, was afraid to sue. So, I'm already past 20 minutes. I don't know if I'm going to remember to put it in other videos, but we need a central place to meet. We can't have everybody fleeing in all sorts of different directions. That's what they want, divide and conquer. We need to find a way to stay together. Now, there are those outside of Utah, obviously, Mormons all over the world. And again, the prophecy in Section 45 of the Doctrine and Covenants is everybody needs to flee to Zion, or they'll have to fight to survive. We don't even have Zion built. And so anybody listening who didn't shut me off when they heard the first thing that I talk about, that I'm going to use over and over again today, we need a central place to meet. First, for Utahns, Mount Olympus, let that be your guide. But it needs to be on the other side. But again, be prepared first. I hope nothing happens, but it's prophesied to happen. And the signs have already happened. They've been fulfilled. If the signs have been fulfilled, why would nothing else be fulfilled? So that's why I'm warning you, because the prophets won't. I'm the only one who's warning you. So, obviously the food you put in your backpack are non-perishable items. You don't put an apple in there and a week later hope that it's still going to be good. You have to have canned or boxed or packaged food. And that's going to require a lot of liquids to add with it. And understand that your bowels will need to adjust to the different kind of food that you're going to be eating. So if you're not already eating these non-perishable foods in the first place, be warned, you're going to have an adjustment in your body that takes place for the first little while until it gets used to it and recognizes that that's what it's going to be for a little while. So, yeah, and you guys brush your teeth and stuff, so you know what that needs to have in there. So just make sure you have it prepared, have it ready to go. If possible, have it already in your vehicle so that you can just go. That you don't have to look for something to pack up and go with. And remember, DVDs will get damaged in the sun, in a very hot car. Thumb drives also will be damaged, so keep them in a cool place. And hopefully we'll survive. But yeah, we need to build Zion, because the current prophets have no interest in doing such a thing. They want you to get sick and die from going to the temple and giving them money, because you have to pay your tithing in order to go to the temple. That's That's all they care about: gain and praise.